I'm old enough to remember growing up and watching the $6 Million Man, right? Which is kind of the view of the biohackers these days, that they want to replace everything in their body with something bioelectronic so they can live forever. But more exciting to me are these smaller things. I mean, obviously, the set point device is not a small thing. It's a big thing for people who use it. The Medtronic AltaViva to help women and men as well with urgency incontinence. It's a thing that nobody likes to talk about, but that's a breakthrough for a lot of people. So I want each of you to introduce yourselves and talk about where you think we are right now in this journey of bioelectronics. Let's start with you.
Oh, sure. Josh McGower. I run the Stanford Masalem Center for Biodesign, and our vision and activity is focused on training the next generation of innovators. So this is the kind of moment that you live for in your career, to be at a transitional moment where really everything's going to change, and for the first time we have validated and approved evidence that is going to totally change therapy, and it's the beginning of a communication for me. What makes this so exciting is it's the first time really we have a validated therapy that's connected the cellular immune system to the nervous system. And we've always wondered, why do some patients do well and they don't, and why does their attitudes matter? What's that connection? This actually is the first true, approved device that's actually connecting those two things, and so it's transformative. So that's why it's exciting to be here.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, hello everyone. My name is Ameza Reitmeyer. I lead Global Brain Health Solutions for Medtronic, and our little role in this, my team was responsible for launching adaptive deep brain stimulation, which was the first commercial scale therapeutic BCI in the world. So right now we've got nearly 2,000 patients activated on closed loop stimulation, so physiologically responsive brain stimulation. And we've got over 40,000 patients around the world who could potentially benefit from the insights that we'll get. And so to me, again, just building on Dr. Tracy's comments, this has been a 25-year journey of discovery, development, and now it's so exciting to be in the deployment phase where all of these patients have the potential to benefit not from another implant, but just from unlocking features that are already on their device. So being able to listen to the brain right now, we are at the starting point, Bertha. We're sensing one signal and adapting one parameter. There's millions of combinations of signals and parameters that we could be adapting, but we have to learn what's going to matter for patients. But we're very proud of where we are right now.
Peter?
So, good morning, everyone. I'm Peter Olofsson. I'm professor of bioelectronic medicine at the Karolinska Institute. So we focus on providing this evidence to map these circuits and understanding how this really works. So we can go from stimulating one thing, measuring one thing, to understanding what we really can do and what mechanisms are really addressable here. I also founded the Stockholm Center for Bioelectronic Medicine, where we're building an ecosystem to integrate this with healthcare, science, engineering, and trying to bring these discoveries to deployment. And on the question of where are we now, I think we are at a tipping point. It's a very exciting time. We have the first proof of concept that this could be something that actually works for patients in real life. We have plenty of scientific evidence for this approach in this case, and we have this vision that there is so much more to learn, and we can learn it together.
And last but not least.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Scott. I'm a general partner at Norwest, which is a Bay Area-based venture capital and growth equity firm. The firm itself is actually one of the oldest venture capital firms and growth equity firms in the United States. We were started back in 1961. Currently have $15.5 billion under management, and we're investing out of our 17th fund, which is a $3 billion fund. We have a diversified strategy, but healthcare represents about 20 to 25% of that of our investment activities. I lead our device and diagnostic investments, and I'm proud to say I'm an investor and on the board of SetPoint, which we're talking about, and then another company in the neuromodulation bioelectronic medicine space called Sharetronics, which Northwell is also involved with in the pivotal trial as a treatment for chronic migraine patients. Just like Josh and the rest of the panel said, I think we're at the very beginnings of a new revolution, a new treatment modality in medicine, and what I'm particularly excited about, but I think is also part of the challenge, is we're starting to entering into more chronic conditions like autoimmune disease and diabetes. And as everyone in this room knows, the business models of a device company versus a pharmaceutical company are very different. And so that creates challenges for us as we start to enter into spaces that have been dominated by the biopharmaceutical industry. How do we efficiently and intelligently introduce this really novel new therapy, which will have reimbursement challenges, regulatory challenges, delivery challenges, but a very exciting time.
I also think about the competitive challenges. Right now, we're looking at GLP-1s as these kind of miracle drugs, as you talk about, your device that could potentially impact a lot of other conditions. GLP-1s are moving forward potentially as something that could impact inflammation in the brain and Alzheimer's, potentially could impact all sorts of other things. We're already seeing it used for, substance use disorder, and certainly for the heart and the overall well-being of the body. So how do you compete with that when they say, well, we know this drug already works, why do we need this very expensive device?
Sort of the other way around, right? Because this is actually cheaper. This is actually the economic support for this technology is actually even more powerful. And thank you to the biotechnology industry for creating so much value around this therapy and the value of those drugs. But the cost of them per year and also the efficacy of them per year is really staggering. It's as we discussed last night, only half of the patients actually receive a benefit from the drug. But this technology actually in 1 year essentially is the cost of the drugs for every year. So it's actually a cost savings in this rare instance.
It is, but Dr. Tracy talked about trying to pay for it. I mean, it's like these incredible gene therapies that, we have a sickle cell therapy that effectively cures it for the majority of people. While that is equivalent to the lifetime cost, paying that all up front, I mean, I don't know if it's different in Europe than here, but if I am, one insurance company, great, I've cured you, but now you're going to go to somebody else and they're going to get you cured and they'll get the ROI that I invested in.
Well, I think just for clarity, the cost of a 1 year of SetPoint, which lasts for your lifetime, hopefully, is the same cost that they're paying, that insurance companies are paying every year. So it's really just one versus a lifetime of the same size payment. So it's actually saving money. It probably pays back in about a year. So that is, while you're right, there's a lot of turnover in sort of patients within insurance. There is some turnover. I think that, in the broader scheme, many of these patients, especially those on Medicare, are going to be, and a lot of these patients are on Medicare. Of course, there's a lot of younger patients as well. They're going to be having that expense for quite some time. So this is a massive cost savings for everyone. I mean, for the insurance companies as well as for taxpayers and everything. So it's a net cost savings overall.
Amaze, are you able to make that case?
Well, and I won't lean into the economic piece of it. I'll lean more in the therapeutic piece of it. So one of the challenges that devices can solve is that drugs, you either take an injection, you ingest a pill, and then you're left to deal with whatever happens after that. Meaning the side effects, overdosing, underdosing, which in people with Parkinson's, they fluctuate throughout the day. With a device, you can be very precise, very specific, very targeted, and you can personalize therapy to exactly what the patient needs in the exact moment. If you need a little more now, but a little less a second from now, it can adapt. And drugs simply can't do that. I'll also say, if a condition can be cured by a gene therapy, or by a drug, or by a biologic, amen, that's amazing. If it can't be, or if it's dynamic and a device can help, we want to provide that too. So to me, there are more than enough problems to solve.
Peter, you have the view from Europe as well. We, in this country, because of our hybrid, I would say, Frankenstein health system. It's very difficult for people to be able to think about the cost structure. Do they think about that in Europe as well?
Oh, I mean, this is way too complicated, I think, for me to make some useful comments on. But of course, it's a big challenge. But the opportunity is so fantastic. Because I second very much what you're saying, that because you asked, why would we need a device when we have drugs? And I think, yes, because of the reasons you said, but also, I mean, at this point, we can now treat the untreatable. So identify new groups of patients that weren't helped by the current drugs. And now we understand something more about the disease and we can unlock a new mechanism. And this is now in the short term for the rheumatoid arthritis therapy failure. Now, but it turns out that these neural reflexes, they regulate inflammation. And inflammation is part of virtually every disease I can think of. So if we now can understand how do these circuits work outside of rheumatoid arthritis in other diseases, we can perhaps unlock a plethora of new treatments. And then thirdly, the nervous system is pretty awesome. I mean, in long term, it regulates most of our functions in the body in a vital way. So if we can understand that these circuits work, I would think that we can then interfere and improve with a lot of functions in the body that may be failing in different situations. So short term, treat the untreatable. Long term, the sky is really the limit. So I think we should, but I agree, we have to now come to the first proof of concept and show that this is actually something that works and that can be delivered and that can be paid for. And I think that's the real challenge that we are facing today.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a good point. And, you know, from an investor side, how we think about investing in these opportunities has a lot to do with the current existing therapeutic business model that you're going to disrupt. SetPoint has, from a disruptive perspective, has a wonderful setup because it is one of the most expensive therapies that we have in the United States. And while the biologics have been an incredible scientific advancement, they have some significant liabilities that limit patients. If you contrast that with other, bioelectronic medicine therapies, like there's some interesting work being done on vagus nerve stimulation and stroke to help people improve like long-term upper extremity debilities, but you're entering into a completely different business model, which is mostly managed by physical therapy. There's not a lot of drug and reimbursement support behind it. So how you think about the investment approach, the regulatory approach, and also the introduction are completely different. So, while the promise is incredible, and I'm clearly a big believer, like we have to be very thoughtful as a system about, almost prioritization in how we approach these in terms of introducing them into the system.
I am in my 60s now, and I think about in my 80s, having been a caregiver for my mom, that's when things really, the rubber hits the road. Mm-hmm. Could we get to a point by the time I'm in my 80s, 20 years from now, that there will be a device that will help me maintain? I mean, I'm going to eat well, I'm going to work out, but, I have an APOE4 gene. Mm-hmm. I wonder what's going to happen in my brain. My mom had dementia. Mm-hmm. So tell me, is there hope for me?
Absolutely. There absolutely is.
You've got a whole room of people that want to solve this problem.
Exactly.
For the record, this is a great place to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about discovery and invention and innovation and science, is looking at these questions and unlocking the mysteries that have been there forever. And, huge credit to Kevin Tracy and his team, just to be able to decode the language of the nervous system and figure out how to tell it this one thing that has such a powerful impact. So yes, I think there's a lot of hope for that.
So from where you're sitting, what do you think is the best bet right now? What are you looking at?
Well, I recently led the last round in set points, so I'd say is a very good bet. No, seriously, it's this space of bioelectronic medicine is the beginning, and I think as having been a part of thankfully in my career, a lot of pioneering spaces where there was a lot of doubt and uncertainty and criticism, and we still face that. That's still ahead of us. This looks exactly like that in the sense that there's a lot of minds that need to be changed. But I think in doing so, we're going to truly unlock a complete revolution. This is the first one, but when there's a first one that goes and creates success, there are many, many, many followers. And so I think it's just really just the beginning of a wave of innovation in this space.
And what about you, Amazing? Because a lot of these drugs that people have tried to develop for Alzheimer's, the risk is a lot higher than the potential reward so far.
Well, yes. So I'm going to take it just a slightly different direction, because one of the keys to success is going to be for groups like this to collaborate on what we're learning, good and bad, about the therapeutic effects, the long-term chronic and clinical outcomes, how do things that we do affect people in the very, very earliest stages of a disease to the very late stages. One of the challenges with Alzheimer's treatment, for example, is that by the time people seek care, there's already been so much damage done to the brain. So could we start treating people earlier, identifying people earlier who could benefit? But that requires sharing all of our knowledge in a way that we're not currently set up to do today, either because groups are viewed as in competition with one another or they protect their data. Privacy concerns are real, and also they stand in the way of developing insights that could help us improve care. So better data sharing so that we can start treating people earlier when they have a healthy brain is essential, in my opinion.
Peter?
Yeah, I think science has come a long way now when it comes to starting to understand this, which is unlocking new ways of addressing lots of diseases, including Alzheimer's. I mean, can we perhaps modulate signals in the nervous system to change aspects that are promoting disease? So I think this is a huge opportunity, and the science is there. But we do have to find ways to deploy this in the community and in the health systems. Because I think, of course, while I'm saying science is there, of course there's a lot more to discover. But to enable that discovery, we have to show success cases. We have to show that this really works. And for that, I think it's one of the key things we need to do now is that everybody needs to come together and build on this initial success of SetPoint, and then find a way to do reimbursement, to encourage investment, enable more science, and then I think hope will increase for everyone going forward.
Maybe everyone just needs to get a SetPoint as soon as they get that. To try to reduce inflammation from chronic stress. Should we do the experiment?
Zach, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with Josh and everyone that I think this intersection between neuromodulation and the inflammatory system is going to be huge. I mean, if you look at the history of the biopharmaceutical industry, I mean, that is where they've made hay over the past 30 years across a variety of different disease areas. I also am very excited about, I mean, if we're, despite all the amazing advances physicians like Dr. Tracy and folks have made, we're still in the very early stages of understanding really how our nervous system works. And you know, our system was developed over 4 billion years of evolution. It's very complex and very redundant. So as we've seen advancements in imaging modalities, targeting modalities like functional MR, that we have a much better understanding of the actual pathways within the brains and the nervous system, I think that leads to another chance to really kind of personalize the therapy, because not all depression is the same, not all pain is the same, different nuclei and pathways are affected differently. So if you can identify and then modulate those, that's going to allow you to deliver a better, more effective care across the patient population. So early innings, but I think it's a very exciting time to be involved in space.
Agreed.
The other thing Dr. Tracy talked about as we are winding down here is trust and building trust. And there are two issues there. Number one, helping people understand how these work. And it's like, wait a minute, AWS just went down the other day, and I couldn't make a Zoom call. Could this fail in me? And the other, is this only going to be for rich people because my insurance is not going to cover it? So you're going to get the benefits and I'm just going to be still stuck here. I know those are two big questions, but I think they go to the issue of trust. How do we create trust so that people understand this and make people feel that they have access?
Yeah. Look, there has to be clinical evidence. we have to have a forum for truth and transparency, to recognize the things it does and doesn't, to openly share, the wins and losses. And that's what innovation is. You're building upon each of those failures and successes to take each step forward, building upon what's been in the past. And I think, as patients, as, people who are willing to enter these trials, we disclose those risks. They should be openly disclosed. It's not a panacea, but it's an advancement. It's an opportunity. There are risks, and everyone has to enter into it with an understanding of those risks. So we're only at one point in history. We haven't achieved perfection, right? So on the pathway, we have already, and we every day accept therapies and solutions that are inadequate. They do so much, but they don't do enough. And so that's what we're all, working towards, is to improve these things over time. And I think this really does represent a land shift, truly new therapy that's going to bring a safer, better alternative to patients that's going to transform this field. Absolutely. But there will still be things to build upon, and you've touched on a few. How do we make it cheaper? How do we make it more accessible? And so those continue to be goals. And if you look at the evolution of, every drug and every device over time, the prices do come down. They do become more accessible. They start off this way almost as a necessity for the life cycle of the investment cycle to sort of repay all that risk that was taken. But over time, that does, become standard of care. And I absolutely believe this will become standard of care.
Yeah, so I'll use the perspective of deep brain stimulation, just as that's my world. But we've been safely doing deep brain stimulation surgery for almost 40 years, and people still think it's a brand new thing. So, and we're less than 10% penetrated around the world. Just not knowing about it is one challenge. Being scared of it is another challenge, and it's justifiable, right? Nobody's all that excited to sign up for a brain surgery. But it is actually well reimbursed and well covered. So that challenge, at least with our procedure, is the least of the problems. Helping people understand how they could benefit, getting them the courage to say yes sooner so they can receive the benefits sooner is one of our core missions. And hopefully efforts like this help raise awareness so that more people can benefit sooner.
Yeah, the issue of trust is extremely important, and one good way is to be consistently right over a long time. And I think that is something I think this field needs to focus on, and I think we have been promoting for a long time that also in this field we have to focus on molecular mechanisms and have employ lots of the rigorous and stringent standards that the pharmaceutical industry has developed over the last long term, right? So that's one thing, and I think then if we create this trust and we are lucky to be right over time, then I think the cost will also go down, and that will increase accessibility because one can envision that these devices can actually be made to treat not only one thing and maybe be reprogrammed in a cheaper way than developing, you can go into your chemical engineer and developing new things that you have to check for toxicity and so on. So I think there is a chance that we can reduce prices and increase trust, but we need investment.
Yeah, but I think to build on, I think the good news, and to build on Josh's comments earlier, is like we are now investing in the expensive but important clinical trials to develop these therapies. To highlight SetPoint again, we ran a 242 patient clinical randomized controlled trial in rheumatoid arthritis in the most difficult patient population that had failed biologics. That was very, very hard and expensive, but it will end up driving the adoption of the therapy. And you're seeing that in stroke, you're seeing that in metabolic diseases, but it takes time and collaboration with our regulators to do that. And then, on the reimbursement side, the fact that we were able to participate in the FDA's breakthrough therapy designation and all the reimbursement benefits, that has been a hugely encouraging and positive thing. And then the collaboration and early reach outs we're seeing from systems like Northwell and payers that recognize this and will work in to do this, I think all those are going to eventually lead to a broader adoption of this because, like everyone is saying, this addresses compliance. It has a long-term, huge economic benefits. to the system, and we're still in the early days.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing what happens in the days ahead, certainly as I am part of the cohort that you're trying to help. Those of us boomers who are getting on there. Thank you all for a wonderful conversation.
Thanks so much.